If you haven't been able to get to one of these round tables, you may be asking, what did I miss? Well, as we gathered together in these small groups, our vision teams had some objectives. First, we wanted to get you talking, engaged. We wanted you to see all that Bear Creek does in a year, and as you talked about these activities, we were listening to see where the energy was. And so we put up all the activities we'd done this last year on four big poster boards, and we gave you sticky notes. Your goal was to pick the events or activities you thought gave you the most energy or most exemplified what Bear Creek was. It wasn't easy. Many of you came back and asked for more stickers. We wouldn't let you do that. And as you were scoping all the events and visiting, we heard you talking. We heard some comments. Wow, we do a lot. How many members do we have? If we were a tree, we'd be a tree with a lot of foliage on top, but a very maybe small trunk, and we need a bigger trunk. Some of you wanted to do more. All these ideas got you stirred up, and you began to think of even more ways we could reach out to the community. Some of the big energy getters were, not surprisingly, centered around mission and outreach. We love that. Events like the Honduras mission trip and hosting Camp Unity were big. Outreach events like our Helping Hands Fund and continued reach out to Matthew House were also strong. Our Stevens ministry, that caring ministry, gathered much support. But other events seemed to bring us energy too. Our Blessing of the Animals service and Trunk or Treat events were big hits. Vacation Bible School, as well as our Interfaith Dinner and Jeopardy event with Kolami and the Bothell Mosque. Worship is a strong component for us. We particularly love moments where as many people as possible were involved in worship. Special services like Youth Sunday and Peter's Walk. We loved our variety of music and all had a fondness in our hearts for the children's time during worship. We love kids. Fellowship and spirituality groups were also strongly supported. Our covenant groups, they are dear to us, as well as our women's retreats and our work with Walk to Emmaus. It was then that we turned to a tough position. We asked you to do something that was hard. We asked that you imagine that there were no Bear Creek. Wow, right? I know it's hard to imagine, but you did. We asked for you to imagine that you were out shopping for a new church. And we asked, what would you be looking for? If you went to worship at this new church for the first time, what would have to be there for you to come back again? Many of you mentioned a warm welcome. You had to have that warm invite and welcome. A dynamic pastor who relates to what's going on was important. Others said people of all ages doing things in worship and in service. Women's programs. Lots of children and youth involved. A ton of you said mission and service projects and ways to get involved in them. Repeatedly, we heard words like diversity and inclusiveness in all of its shapes and forms. This church needed to include and welcome everyone, or we weren't going to go. As you were swapping important factors in a church with each other, we noted that there was a positive buzz starting to form. There was an energy in the room. Could it be the Holy Spirit was at work? As we sat down, we asked you a tougher question. As we looked at all we wanted to do in this new church, were there areas that Bear Creek needed a sharper focus? Were there places that we fell short and needed to grow? Others, one person said, where are all the children? We love them, but we don't have very many. Others pointed to a lack of communication. Where do we access all what Bear Creek is doing? Could we improve how we told our story, both inside the church and outside the church? Could we use technology better? We need to grow. someone said. I'd love to see our worship service be full on Sunday morning. I'd love to see 20 children jumping up to the children's message. Again, inclusion and diversity was a key. I want to go somewhere where everyone belongs. It was then that we turned your creative juices loose. We broke you up into groups, and each group was to come up with a compelling picture of what we wanted Bear Creek to become. Not one of you held back. You were fighting over the markers. There were fist fights over who got to draw first. Well, maybe not. But in the end, we did have some very compelling visions and pictures. A speedometer on a car was drawn. And insightfully, someone said that a good church isn't always going 160 miles an hour. Sometimes we have to slow down. Sometimes we have to look at the curves. Sometimes we need to slow down in order to get ahead. Many of you drew wide open doors to your church, symbolizing that here at Bear Creek, we wanted everyone to feel welcome. One of the youth groups drew an airplane pulling a huge banner behind it, inviting everyone to Bear Creek, signifying our need to get creative on how to get the message out that Bear Creek is a place where God's love is thriving. Smiling, diverse people of all ages, dressed in some crazy clothes, all smiling with arms wide open, ready to welcome folk in. Words became interesting. Words like inclusive, thriving, diverse, place of belonging, reaching out, service, mission, and more. In the end, we felt a good discussion had begun, and we encouraged all of you to keep on discussing, talking. Talk about it over coffee, pray about it, ask God for big, bold ideas. We ended by brainstorming some of those big, bold ideas. A younger group talked a lot about coffee and how important coffee was to their culture, and a coffee kiosk serving good lattes on Sunday was really brought up. A well-developed welcoming process that taught, supported, and connected new folks to our Bear Creek community was discussed. Small groups and relationships were important to many, and it became apparent that we need to take a good look at how we do this and how we can creatively strengthen what we already do. It was clear by all that we were an outward-looking church. We love service projects and mission events. How can we get more people engaged in them? A young mother shared that she needs the church to help her so that sponsor service projects that she can do with her children. She wants to serve together with her children. We're a great church, and we're on our way.